Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what is arguably the single most defining technological shift of our generation. And honestly, we're going to uncover a pretty massive paradox right at its core. You see, in our current landscape, artificial intelligence is simultaneously our absolute greatest security asset and, well, our most vulnerable, wide-open door. Organizations are just sprinting toward innovation right now. But as we're about to see through some fresh data and a really fascinating real-world case study, the oversight and governance of these systems are lagging dangerously behind.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to journey from the macro breach data in the AI security paradox and the threat of shadow AI, zoom into a micro case study where security fixes totally failed, and then finally zoom out to Google's methodology for adapting our defenses before wrapping up with the ultimate AI security mandate. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The AI Security Paradox. How AI both helps and hurts.
Now, what's really interesting here is this stark contrast from IBM's cost of a data breach report. For the first time in 5 years, the global average cost of a data breach has actually dropped to $4.44 million, and that's largely driven by AI-powered defenses. But get this, in the US, the average is bucking the trend completely. It's sitting at a record-breaking $10.22 million. So while AI is helping security teams globally move smarter and faster, the financial stakes of a breach in certain regions have literally never been higher, mainly due to steeper regulatory penalties and rising detection costs.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that while we are rapidly adopting AI to defend ourselves, our own internal AI systems are incredibly exposed. According to the IBM report, an astonishing 97% of organizations that reported AI-related breaches completely lacked proper access controls. Think about that for a second. The attackers aren't even having to break the complex AI models themselves. They're just walking right through the front door because the basic locks and keys, the access controls around the AI supply chain and APIs are simply missing.
Moving on to Section 2, the threat of shadow AI, the hidden costs of unapproved tools. You know when well-meaning employees just grab the latest generative AI tool to do their jobs faster without waiting for IT approval? Well, that's what we call shadow AI. Unlike sanctioned AI, which sits safely governed inside your security perimeter, shadow AI is completely unmonitored, and the data shows this comes with a huge price tag. Using this unmonitored shadow AI adds a massive $670,000 penalty to average breach costs. It just massively increases the likelihood of your highly sensitive intellectual property or customer data being compromised, mostly because it's scattered all over unprotected and visible environments.
And here is the real blind spot. 63% of breached organizations either lack AI governance policies entirely, or they're just starting to develop them. This means the majority of businesses out there are completely blind to the widespread exposure of sensitive data happening right under their noses. They don't have an approval process, and they definitely don't have the tools to audit for this unsanctioned AI use.
All right, Section 3. When security fixes fail, the Lovable incident.
To truly understand how devastating these oversight gaps can be, let's step away from the macro data for a minute and look at a real-world reality check from early 2026. The Lovable incident perfectly and quite brilliantly illustrates the anatomy of a disaster. Just look at this agonizing 76-day exposure window. On February 3rd, a backend regression was accidentally introduced. By February 22nd, security researchers were actively reporting the vulnerability, but those reports were completely ignored and closed out because the company's triage documentation was outdated. It wasn't until a public disclosure on April 20th that they finally acknowledged the issue and, to their credit, shipped a fix within 2 hours.
The incident report from Lovable's founders contained this striking admission. They noted that a back-end unification effort ended up undoing protections we had deliberately put in place. It's a stark reminder of just how fragile code actually is. They had built these solid private-by-default settings, but a simple back-end update accidentally reversed them entirely, re-exposing everything from public project chats to source code. And the scale of what was exposed is pretty alarming. With just 5 API calls from a free, authenticated account, 5 calls, anyone could pull another user's full source code, their hard-coded database credentials, and their complete AI conversation history. They even exposed real personal data like LinkedIn profiles and Stripe IDs. It just goes to show that even really smart, well-meaning tech companies are struggling with AI and API access oversight. Because honestly, if your chat history with an AI assistant contains your database passwords, a simple API oversight becomes a full-blown catastrophe.
Section 4. A framework for AI safety. Google SAIF.
Okay, let's pivot from the panic of data breaches over to some pragmatism. We need a solution. Enter Google's Secure AI Framework, or SAIF. And look, this isn't just theoretical corporate jargon. It is an urgent, highly practical toolkit for modern AI integration. It basically takes the security best practices Google has used for software development for years and combines them with a really deep understanding of the unique risks specific to today's AI systems.
So let's see how this builds. It starts with 3 really foundational steps. Step 1 is making sure you deeply understand the specific business use case before you even think about deploying a model. Step 2 is assembling the right team, and that means not just engineers, but bringing in legal, privacy, and risk experts too. And step 3 is level setting everyone with an AI primer. You have to ensure that your cross-functional team actually understands the basics of large language models before they try to secure them, right?
Section 5. Automating and adapting defenses. Putting SAIF into practice. Once you have that foundation built, putting SAIF into practice requires you to expand your strong security foundations across the entire AI ecosystem. You've got to extend your detection and response capabilities so AI is brought into your threat universe, and contextualize those AI risks within your surrounding business processes. But maybe most importantly, you absolutely need to harmonize your platform-level controls. Because if you have fragmented security controls across different teams, you're just creating overlaps, inefficiencies, and massive blind spots.
And that brings us to a foundational rule of the modern security landscape. You literally have to fight AI with AI. The IBM report noted that attackers are already out there using generative AI to rapidly scale their phishing campaigns. So as a defender, you must use AI defensively. You need it to automate all those time-consuming tasks, reduce the daily toil on your security analysts, and drastically speed up your own defensive mechanisms so you can actually match the speed of the attackers.
This really requires shifting our whole mindset. Traditional security leans heavily on static analysis and periodic scheduled audits. But adaptive AI controls, they require a much more dynamic approach. You need continuous red teaming, which is ethical hacking, where your own teams actively try to break your AI systems to find vulnerabilities before the bad guys do. And you need incredibly fast feedback loops where any discoveries are instantly fed back into the training data, allowing for continuous learning and adaptation.
Finally, Section 6, the AI Security Mandate, Bridging the Gap.
As we bring all of this together, remember that silver lining from the IBM report we talked about earlier? Well, here is the tangible payoff. Security teams that extensively use AI and automation in their defenses don't just stop attacks better, they actually lower their average breach cost by $1.9 million compared to organizations that don't. And on top of that, they shorten the life cycle of a breach by a staggering 80 days. So good AI security isn't just a protective measure, it is quite literally a multi-million-dollar cost savings measure.
Which leaves us with this final, critical question to really reflect on today. Is your organization's AI adoption outpacing your oversight? Are your teams sprinting toward the incredible innovation of generative AI while accidentally leaving the back-end doors wide open? The tools to secure this future absolutely exist, but it is up to you to implement them before the gap becomes a breach. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.